All right, folks, I think we can get started. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks, from wherever you're joining in. My name is Prithviraj, as you know, and I've been leading the community efforts for the Litmus Chaos project since the last couple of years. And I'm glad to see so many folks joining in the first community call for this year. And the first things first, obviously, I would like to share the agenda on screen. But before that, I would just like to share what we have achieved or in this last month or a great news for everyone out here. So let me just share my screen once again. So I hope my screen is visible. It's with the agenda, but let's just talk about Litmus Chaos becoming a CNCF incubating project. This is the CNCF blog out here, and I think that is the best news we can achieve as a community in the last 1 year. I mean, the effort has been out there, and with the contributions from the overall community, the contributors, the maintainers, and everyone who's been part in terms of giving out feedback or just being an end user or being a project was integrated with Litmus. I think it's a cumulative achievement, and kudos to everyone. This obviously helps us reach the next stage in the CNCF ecosystem, but also brings in new possibilities and helps us basically jot down the next roadmap. And I mean, with 50 plus 100 plus known users of Litmus and more coming in, I think it's only for us to celebrate that Litmus has achieved this with 2.0 coming out last August and planning for 3.0 and the upcoming versions. I think it's been a great journey, and I want to congratulate everyone out here who has been part of the community, part of the journey. Thank you everyone for helping Litmus achieve what it has as a CNCF project, an open source project. And I hope that soon we'll be moving towards graduation. We'll jot down the plan, and the project roadmap will see more developments and more contributions coming in. So thanks a lot everyone for as a community lead and as a community member. I want to thank everyone, and uh, it's a great achievement for everyone. Thank you, folks. So moving on, I mean, we'll be talking about a lot. Just before we get started with the agenda, I would just like to give you information on Chaos Carnival that is happening on the 27th and 28th of January. It's a global chaos engineering event, and it's again Litmus community is a huge part of it. It's a community sponsor, and there are some amazing talks and keynotes that are out there. Miko and Uma are presenting the keynotes, and some amazing sessions from stalwarts from the chaos community: Russ Miles, Liz Fong Jones, Yuri, our own Karthik, maintainer of the Litmus project, Gunnar, Julie, and so many more speakers. There are a couple of panel discussions that are out there. One is a live panel, one is sponsored by the New Stack. It's a virtual pancake breakfast event or podcast event featuring some amazing speakers: Nora Jones, Ramya from LTI, Charlotte Mark, and then Alex is leading those efforts. And then there are also workshops and games and swag polls that are available. So I'll be sharing the links, so anyone who's interested to be a part of this chaos engineering conference can be a part of the conference and get to know a lot more about chaos engineering. So moving on, let's just move on to the agenda. We'll be introducing new members on call. I see a few new members joining in who weren't part of the previous calls. We have Bruno, Victor, and other folks from the iFood team who have joined in, who will be talking about their journey, their user story, and updates on how they have fared in. We have Brayan from Globant, who is also joined in and who's been a part of the community, has been asking questions here and there, who will be sharing a short story. And then Udit will just go through the release notes. We just had the 2.5 release on the 15th, 16th, and then he'll also talk about a few updates on the Chaos Center. We have Neelanjan, who will be talking about the M agent updates, what we have been working on with the M agent. And then Karthik will just go through the year review for 2021 and what's there to look forward to in 2022. So let's not waste any time. I'll just invite a few new folks that I can see on my screen to introduce themselves. I see A. Aguirre. So perhaps you can just unmute yourself and just introduce us to the community. I believe he's on mute. So perhaps we'll move on to the next. Bipin, if you could just unmute and introduce to the community.
Yeah, hi Pratim. This is Bipin, and I'm working as an IT architect in FIS. So we are working with the Litmus community, and we are did a lot with the Litmus now, and we are onboarding many teams within our organization. It was a great working with you all guys. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Bipin. Moving on, I mean, we'll move to Brian and Bruno, obviously, but Gopi, perhaps you can just unmute yourself and introduce quickly.
Yeah, hi Prithvi. Actually, I'm part of Bipin and Raj. I mean, Raj also there in this call. I'm part of their team, so I'm working under them. So currently I'm in a learning stage. So we are creating experiments, and so as Bipin mentioned, so now we are creating experiments and different applications and across the teams.
Thanks a
Yeah.
lot, Gopi. Thanks a lot for joining in, and it's been great to see all the questions that you've been asking in the community, and pleasure to have you here, and pleasure to have Raj back again with us. He presented in the last call. If you have not seen that, you can just check out the Litmus channel. He presented on the FIS story, and we are glad to have Gopi, Raj, and Bipin with us from the FIS team. Moving on, Guilherme Hernandez, I see he's another new member who has joined in. Perhaps you can just unmute quickly and introduce yourself. Okay, he's again from the iFood team. Welcome, Guilherme. Renan, perhaps you can just quickly unmute and introduce yourself. Okay, again, Renan is unable to. So we have a couple of more folks, Rogerio and Vitor, I believe. You are also from the iFood team, if I'm not wrong. So perhaps you can just introduce yourself in chat, and then we can move ahead with the agenda in hand. So last up, I think we have Pratik, who's also joining the Litmus community as another contributor. So Pratik, you can quickly just unmute yourself and introduce, and then we can move on.
Okay, thank you, Prithvi. Hello, am I audible?
Sorry, Pratik, I think there's some issue with your microphone.
Am I audible now?
Pratik, perhaps you can introduce yourself in chat itself. There's some
Okay,
issue with
sure.
your microphone. So moving on, let's just get started. Let's introduce Bruno. Bruno, you can take over and introduce yourself with Victor and team, and just take us through the iFood story and how's the journey been. So Bruno, the floor is all yours.
Okay, thanks, Privity. So yeah, as I said, so I'm sorry that I was unable to prepare nice slides, so I will mostly talk. So if it's okay for you guys. So yeah, I'm Bruno. I'm from the iFood team. So I have been working at iFood for the past 5 years. And here at iFood, we have been experiencing the chaos engineering practice since mid of 2020, and in the beginning of the pandemic season that has been taken as a storm here worldwide, but also in Brazil. So just to give a glimpse and a little bit of context, what iFood does. iFood, it's the leading food delivery company here in Latin America. We are kind of Uber Eats and Swiggy flavor here in Latin America. So we have been doing like around 60 million orders a month. And yeah, so with this so many growth that we have been experiencing in this couple of years, we have started to experience also problems in the infrastructure. So like things like components that belongs, like for example, to AWS, like SNS, S3, and database having some kind of outage during our processing orders. So, and yeah, we have experiencing the need to have something to just start and just to advance and anticipate much of the problems that we have been experiencing and start to cope with these kind of outages and chaos that bad things happens in production, right? So so we started doing war games at iFood around June 2020, 2 years ago, and start to break things in production, like manually break things in production, like shut down database, also shut down like a Redis and all other components, like turn on or turn off one service that we highly depend on, like for example the checkout microservice, and see what's going on. So we start to have sorry, to have these kind of experiments implemented manually in production during like our load test. Just also to give some kind of context, we run a load test in production every single day, every weekday to be more accurate. So, and along with this load test that we exercise and see how much load our platform can cope, and also to foresee what it's the amount of orders that we can be able to handle in the next few months, and see if the architecture still stands on this kind of load. So we run this load test every weekday, and along with that, we start to also doing some chaos engineering experiments during this load test time. It's usually like a low traffic time here in Brazil, around like 5 a.m. And then we start to just run these kind of experiments manually. And we found the need to be able to automate that, and then to be able to have more like automated process to be able to repeat these things in production. So we have started to see a couple of tools. We began with Chaos Toolkit, I believe you guys know, and start to automate just simple scenarios like killing pods, and not different than that, and see what we could cope with this. It worked for I believe 1 or 2 months, and we saw that we need a tool that would better suit us to have a more broader range of experiments. So, and we were lucky that we found Litmus, and yeah, we start to made a POC here internally. We found a lot of potential in the tool, and the great thing is that it's really highly extensible, so that we can really implement these experiments, and also to scale at iFood, because we have a lot of Kubernetes clusters here, and teams works in different clusters here because they have a application running on a specific clusters. So we would like to be able to have a central place and also distribute these things, these experiments across our Kubernetes clusters. So yeah, so we found that Litmus would allow that with Chaos Center, and have the agents installed in each one of the clusters. And we have started to implement that since I would believe it's September past year. And we have been successfully running some what we call the war games, that are these game days. And so far, it's been great, because we already have found some room for improvement, and also to suggest to the community some features and fix that we would found along the way. and yeah, that have been great so far. So maybe Victor can share what we have been working so far at Litmus.
Sure. First things first. So, hi everyone. My name is Victor. I'm also a developer at iFood. I work with in the same team as Bruno. And yeah, as Bruno said, we do our experiments in production environments. So we kind of been using Litmus for that, and we found some things in Litmus that were lacking some functionalities, and then we decided to actively work to help the community grow and implement those features. So one of these, I think it was Bruno who spotted first, and I think it was a typo when using the DEX server for authentication, that it was a requirement for us in iFood. So we opened a PR in Litmus to fix this, and it's been working great. We were able to integrate with our SSO, and it works flawlessly. So another thing, it was we had a requirement to know which user performed the experiment, the work, executed the workflow, because as we run these in production, sometimes things can go out of control if someone starts executing workflows on random systems. So we really needed to know who executed what experiment to talk to the person and explain that this is critical and can cause some problems in production. So I've worked on a PR to make the workflow operations output and added both in the core structure and the front end as well. So I think that's it.
Yeah, guys, that's what we have to share today. So it's been very nice to work with Litmus and be able to contribute to the community. And I hope we can even contribute even more in the next few months. So because we are now starting to scale for the entire company, and things are getting traction here at iFood. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bruno
Thanks.
and Victor. This is Karthik. Great to see your questions and the contributions. I think that's wonderful. Thank you so much for collaborating with us on this project. Hope we can make the framework even better for your needs going ahead.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Bruno. Thanks a lot, Victor, and the whole iFood team for joining in and for all the contributions that you have done and will do in the future. We look forward to have you in the community calls as well as in the community and more interactions as well. So without any further ado, I would like to invite Brayan. Brayan is a member of the Globant team, and he's been using Litmus for some time. So Brayan, perhaps you can just unmute yourself, introduce, and let us know about the journey. Brayan, some issues with your mic, it seems. Can't hear you. Apologies, Brayan, we still can't hear you properly. Some issues with your audio, Brian. Perhaps you can disconnect your earphones or something. That might be helpful.
Now, can you hear me right now?
Yes, Brian, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry for the issue. Okay, guys, nice to meet you. I'm Brayan Bautista from Colombia, here at Latam, working for Globant as a site reliability engineering. We are a software company that offer a software solution for different business ways here in USA and Europe. We started using Litmus because we need to ensure the Kubernetes cluster on production. We have some data critical services for some our clients. We saw on Litmus the easy way to use the experiments to create some workflows. There is very friendly for the new user into the chaos culture, for example. At Litmus, the Litmus have the possibility to see some common experiments in order to be ready to use in the workflow, and the possibility to write custom experiments for the community. We use Litmus in order to test some data process in the cluster. For example, we use some storage layer in order to control the sizing of the PVCs. We use Litmus experiments in order to verify what happens when we create some stress tests into the workloads in order to increase the size in the PVC and verify if some strategies of the PVC increase automatically the PVCs. The idea of the Litmus experiment production is allow to the team to define SLAs and SLOs for the clients. We support some technology, some open source technologies, and the idea is have the opportunity from Globant to support or to sponsor some open source technologies. That's it, guys.
Thanks a lot, Brian, for being one of the users of Litmus and contributing to the community. It's again great to have you here, and we look forward to more contributions and more usage from you in the future and from the whole Globant team as well. Thanks again, Brian.
Yes, of course, the idea. Thank you for inviting me here.
It's a pleasure. So moving on, we were supposed to have Udit, who would have taken us through the release notes and 2.5 release, but unfortunately Udit has not been able to join us. So perhaps I would allow Neelanjan to go ahead, share his screen and give us the updates on the agent, and then we'll move on to Karthik.
Thanks, Prithvi. Let me just share my screen. Can I have a kind confirmation, Prithvi? My screen is visible.
Yes, Neelanjan.
Thanks. All right, so I'd like to talk about agent.
Neelanjan, your audio got disconnected.
Is it better right now, Prithvi?
Yes.
All right, sorry for the issue. I'll start afresh. All right, so basically I was saying that agent is a platform generic machine scoped daemon agent for injecting faults into machine resources as part of the Litmus chaos experiment. It was introduced into our Litmus suite of experiments, or you can say our Litmus release in the latest 2.5.2 release. And it is basically useful for for injecting faults into our machine scoped resources. So it installs into your target. So the reason the agent was developed because with Litmus, due to a lack of uniform interface to inject chaos into machine resources into different.
Neelanjan, your audio is again disconnected. Can you fix that up?
Not sure why this is happening. All right, just let me know if this is all right.
Yes, it is.
All right. All right. So I was basically saying that why do we need agent in the first place? So basically, agent was required because we were at a lack of a uniform inject chaos into our machine scoped resources. When we speak of the machine scoped resources, different public cloud platforms, different private cloud platforms, as well as the bare metal nodes. So all agents, they were less than ideal for chaos, respectively. With M agent, we can natively only a pre-alpha build of M agent is available, which will be subjected to change in the upcoming iterations. So what you can expect is basically we have also developed a pre-alpha version of the process skill experiment, which has been developed using M agent. You can visit the project repo, which is basically the repo that I'm showing in my screen right now. And you can basically create any issues for any suggestions or any feature requests. With the further iterations, you can expect more agent-based experiments, that is for machine resources such as network, disk, IO, OS resources, etc., to be added to our Litmus Go chaos lib. So that is it on the M agent. Please feel free to check this out. Prithvi, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Neelanjan. If you have any questions on the M agent, feel free to post them on chat. Karthik, perhaps you can take it ahead, just share the latest on the release and the year review and what's next for the Litmus community.
Sure, I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, Karthik.
All right. I think we had a little bit of chaos when Neelanjan was speaking. So I'll reiterate what a agent is, just for the audience who might be looking at Litmus for the first time or who've joined in recent times. So while the Kubernetes experiments have been widely used, we did have an initial set of experiments targeting non-Kubernetes resources, as we call it, essentially VMs and disks belonging to specific cloud platforms, AWS EC2 instances and disks, VMware, GCP and Azure instances and disks, which we could shut down or detach respectively. But there's also a need for us to do in VM chaos, that is cause attacks inside of VMs. We could be doing network related faults, resource attacks. You could be doing process failures, or you could be doing HTTP failures, different kinds of failures that you would do inside of VMs. There are pod equivalents for all of those already used today. So the way we approached the chaos on these VMs instances were through native proprietary agents belonging to the cloud platforms. For example, in case of AWS, we had the SSM. In case of Azure, we had the WA agent coupled with the run command feature. So we were making use of agents specific to the cloud platform in order to inject certain fault operations or cause attacks inside of the VM. And that was proving to be a little bit difficult to scale. While they have while there is a significant use of these utilities, SSM and WA agents and the like in other platforms, they of course have certain specific experiments which we can execute through them. We wanted a more generic approach to doing in VM faults. And we wanted to extend the abilities that are currently there on Kubernetes, such as probes and application validations, auxiliary app checks, and some of these capabilities into the non-Kubernetes world as well, into the VM world as well. That is when we decided to write up what we are calling as M-Agent. Neelanjan said it is a machine-scoped daemon that will sit inside these VMs and speak with the Litmus control plane in order to orchestrate attacks inside of the VM. That is the intent of this project. And we have put up what is essentially a pre-alpha version of M-Agent. Please feel free to take a look at it, try out the sample experiment for process skill that is there, and any issues or enhancements that you might have in mind, please feel free to share them with us. We would like to build upon this and ensure that you have a single platform or a single control plane to perform chaos against a variety of targets, Kubernetes, non-Kubernetes targets, and eventually managed services of the cloud as well. So that is the idea. This is something we wanted to achieve this year. So we've got off to a steady start in 2022 with this. The other important release updates, I probably not go through individual items, just talk about a few high-level progress that we made.
Hey, Karthik, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. This is Raj from FIS Global.
Hey, Raj.
Thank you for that. Actually, this is exactly what we are looking for today. In the absence of Litmus supporting chaos testing or chaos engineering in the non-cloud native platforms, we are using Chaos Blade. So we want to go with the one tool. So this is certainly, I think, a good start, and certainly we will take a look at it. But our scope and pretty much what we're looking for is what we're trying to achieve is the same thing what we're achieving in the cloud native platform, where we want to execute, you have part delete there, you have a process skill here, right, in the non-cloud native world, and you have network latencies and other stuff, right? We want to see pretty much similar experiments we want to execute in the non-cloud native world. And one more thing I want to throw there is we have quite a few applications which are in the .NET platform. So are there any plans to kind of extend this to .NET platform, like a Windows platform?
Yeah, great question. I think that's one of the requests that we're getting from the community. In addition to extending Litmus to non-Kubernetes entities, we also want to introduce a family or category of experiments for specific application frameworks. Maybe something on Spring Boot, something on .NET, like you said, and not only introduce those categories, but also provide enough tooling in order to generate these experiments quickly, even if you were to do it yourself. Make the Litmus SDK or the developer kit stronger in order to sort of bootstrap these experiments as quickly as possible. That is something that's also in the works, Raj. It's probably going to be taken up once we are ahead, or we have some traction on the non-Kubernetes chaos that I just spoke about, but that's definitely part of the roadmap.
Okay, great. Thanks, Karthik.
Cool. So there are a few important enhancements that we've made. The network-related experiments now support jitter functionality. So this is essentially a way for us to create some non-deterministic element inside of the tests. Right now, if we were to do network latency for, say, 2000 milliseconds, it's strictly 2000 milliseconds latency for the chaos duration. But let us say you had 2000 milliseconds plus or minus of a certain value, say 500 milliseconds, it can go from 1500 milliseconds to 2500 milliseconds. You want to add in some unpredictability, which is how most of the real world cases would be like. To support that kind of capability for packet drops, for corrupted packets, for latency, we've introduced the jitter functionality. We've also started, just to make things easier, we started putting out hailing charts for the Azure and GCP chaos experiments. We had them for the Kubernetes and AWS. We've created ones for Azure and GCP. Now that its usage levels have picked up a little bit over the last few months. And we've also gone ahead and added some E2E experiments, as in E2E tests for these experiments, for the newer ones that we've created. And there's a good amount of refactoring going on around the entire E2E. We want to make it more robust and make it more accessible to the community, find out exactly what is working, what is breaking, what versions are completely usable, what is the compatibility between Chaos Center and backend component versions. All this needs to be made more transparent. We are working towards an E2E dashboard. I think in one of the previous sessions, Udit did give you a glimpse of the dashboard, but we are working towards a comprehensive dashboard and also ramping up on infra for E2E in order to carry out duration and scale tests. So that is some activity going on. One of the important goals that we have as part of this year, the first quarter, is to add more depth to the E2E. So you will hear some more updates as we go in our subsequent community calls. We probably will have regular updates coming out on how this is being achieved. And there have been some minor updates on a Chaos Center for Litmus CTL, and for other agents, we've provided ability to connect in insecure manner and skip the SSL verification. The API documentation refactor effort is underway at this moment. So because of the varied contributions that we were getting, there a little bit of styling issues and naming convention issues sort of crept into the APIs, which we are fixing, and also republishing the documentation in order to aid automation better, automation from other platforms, automation as part of CI/CD pipelines. So that is something that we will be focusing on. And better debuggability. There is an effort to relook at logs of both the operator experiments as well as front-end components in order to make it more debuggable in case of issues. So there is an ongoing process, and we don't have too much content in this release. I think we're just getting started with the year. We would see more items coming in as we go. I just wanted to take this opportunity. I think it's also there in the agenda. Just wanted to take the opportunity to do a very quick recap on what we've been able to do in 2021 and what we're looking forward to do this year. I think we did cover a bit of it in the last call, but I think we were towards the end of that call. So I just thought we can go over this again. We also have the good news, which I think Prithvi might have talked about at the beginning of this call. We are now officially an incubating CNCF project. So we've said impending in CNCF incubation, but we actually went past. We have become an incubation project. We are listed officially. And I think it's one of the important milestones for Litmus. We were able to get 2 incubation from Sandbox in around a year's time. So that's a great testament to the involvement of the community, all the feedback, suggestions that you gave in improving the project, and your adoption references. All that has mattered a lot. When the TOC conducted a due diligence, they found the community to be very vibrant. So thank you to all of you once again for helping the project get where it is. And I think this marks the beginning of our journey towards an improved platform and going further along the way in the CNCF ladder. So a huge thanks to everyone. And with this, I think we will also get some benefits in terms of infrastructure, ability to host E2E and our websites on the hub on better infrastructure, and we will also have a lot of other abilities to disseminate more information about Litmus, more platforms and opportunities to present about it in different forums. So these are some of the additional benefits we get as an incubation project. So we hope to utilize that to spread more awareness around chaos engineering. So that was one of the milestones, something that we were working for in the last year, and we have that this time. But from a feature point of view, I think we went ahead and added native chaos lib for network and stress case experiments. You might all be aware that the initial days we were making use of third-party tooling to do the faults, stress and network faults. We're using Pumbaa, which is another great tool, specifically for doing chaos against containers. But then we sort of wrote a native chaos lib with ability to manage aborts better, manage our own logging, and manage our own different other features, duration, and other capabilities. So this native chaos lib for network and stress experiments has been added, while we still retain, for illustration purposes, the other older libraries as part of a BYOC reference. That is, bring your own chaos reference. Let's say you can write up your own chaos business logic and then create an experiment CR out of it, and then add that inside of a workflow. So to sort of illustrate that, we've still kept the old libraries available as an option, as a lib option in the experiment. We added support for newer container runtimes. Now that Docker is more or less deprecated, not in use in the newer versions. So we've got containerd and support for CRIO. CRIO especially because there's increasing use of Litmus in an OpenShift environment. And we also added more tunables around blast radius control, ability to filter based on deployment kind, the workload kinds, ability to filter out pods of a certain label in a specific node as defined by the node labels or node names. We've managed to get some richer probe schema. The probes were one of the things we started working on beginning last year, and we made some progress in terms of adding more probe types. Initially we had HTTP probes, but then we've added command probes and Prometheus probes and K8s probes, and we're constantly trying to refine what all is possible to be input in these probes. For example, the command probe is basically now supporting the source mode, where you can launch your own containers or own pods that are brought up to carry out certain validation functions. And those pods can be now brought up with their own properties around full policy, image full policies and args and these kind of things. And also the HTTP probe is now supporting more flags. So this is something that is getting better. Probes are an important feature where we are hoping to add more probe types in the upcoming year, in this year, so that we are integrating with a lot more open source tooling, mainly observability platforms, so that you are not constrained on being able to validate the application behavior in an automated way. And let's say you're not using Prometheus, but you'd still like to go ahead and do some validation. We're working towards adding probes for different other observability platforms, and also make the command and HTTP probe richer, so that you can make your own REST calls if that helps. And we've also started working on non-Kubernetes experiments, as we just talked about the M agent. We're also focusing on adding more non-Kubernetes experiments. And while we went about doing this, we did a major version update. We went to 2.0. The 1.x was all about the operator and the experiments. And then we introduced the chaos center, the agent model, the multi-tenancy, where you can add several clusters into a single chaos center, the concept of workflows over standalone experiments. GitOps was introduced as a feature, which is still in its early stages, but it's usable. you could always use the ability to construct workflows on the Chaos Center and store its golden copy in a Git repository. If you have provided the right commit permissions, you can directly push your workflows into a Git source, and there'll be some reconciliation that will happen when you update your Git source, your workflow manifests in your source. You will be able to reflect that on the Chaos Center. So we also introduced a conference. Litmus community was one of the important organizing committee members, along with other organizers, for the Chaos Carnival. The first edition happened in February 2021, and the next version is coming up end of this month. Again, I think it's on Jan 26th and 27th. Prithvi might talk about it more. So we welcome you to this conference. We encourage you to register. It's free of cost, so you can join in and listen to chaos practitioners from different organizations, different vendors coming and talking about their experiences and use cases. I think it's going to be quite informative, and this is basically an effort to disseminate more chaos knowledge. So as a project team, we were quite involved in organizing this carnival, and we've been so for this edition as well. So that was a success last time. We hope to make one this year too. And we got into incubation, and we've had presence in the KubeCons. We had both the Europe and North America KubeCon featuring more than one talk on Litmus, which was great. In fact, in the previous concluded North America KubeCon, we had a keynote on one of the days that referenced Litmus while talking about system resilience. So that's a sign of how the project has grown. So that's definitely very heartening to see, and we would like to sort of build upon all this interest and goodwill and make the project better, resolve whatever issues are being reported, and add more features, etc. They were some of the highlights of 2021. We've added newer adopters across different kinds of users. The end users, as how CNCF defines them, we've added cloud native vendors and solution providers, different profiles of adopters, and also added newer maintainers from the community, from Pole employee and other organizations, newer reviewers. So I think all in all, it was a quite successful year. And this year we are looking at, I should have said this is 2022. I think we're not stuck still in 21. So 22, we're trying to look at improved security practices, something that we did discuss in the previous call. We've already provided some best practices with respect to Kyberno and port security policies, scanning via Trivi and code scans via Sneak, and some of these have been introduced in the project, but we plan to make it more efficient this year. And newer experiments, the application-specific chaos experiments that Raj was talking about, and increased support for the CI/CD. Right now, the Chaos CI lib caters to GitHub Actions, GitLab templates, and Jenkins templates, but this Chaos CI lib is capable of launching the Chaos engine. It is still not integrated with Chaos Center or workflows, or essentially the 2.0 of Litmus. So we will be improving the Chaos CI lib to work with the newer model, while still retaining its support for the direct creation of Chaos engines. And we're looking at open telemetry and how we can basically provide metrics that aligns to the open telemetry standards, and also work on newer probes and other observability integrations. So we are seeing SRE based use cases of chaos engineering, where it is done manually, it's done in production, or it's done in staging environments. I think that's where we need more hooks, more metrics, more logs, better events, and better probes. Whereas the Chaos CI lib is instrumental in helping people run this in a scripted way as part of CI/CD, So these two are some of the biggest focus areas that we are looking at. But this is just what is the consensus from the maintainers. We are very open to listening more from the community and taking more feedback, and we are always game to prioritize how the community sees things. So that we will continue to discuss the roadmap and how we are progressing, what the hot issues are right now, and things like that in the subsequent community calls. So this was a very quick recap of what we've been able to do as a project and what we plan. So I think that was it, Prithvi. So I'll probably stop sharing and I can take some questions or any thoughts, feedback.
Thanks a lot, Karthik. If you have any questions for Karthik, perhaps you can unmute yourself and ask, and post that we can wind up. All right, folks, I don't see any other questions. We have a couple of folks who joined us late, Carlos and Giuliano. If you want to introduce yourself before we wind up, you can do that. And then we can conclude this call. Okay, I don't see.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Giuliano,
Yes. Yes. I'm a software developer here in iFood Brazil. I've heard some guys here were explaining a little bit of how their contributions. So we were into, but sorry, we got a bit late actually. But thank you.
No worries, Giuliano. Thanks a lot for joining in, and thanks a lot the whole iFood team for joining in. It was great to have you all. So last up, before winding up, I'll just share the link for Chaos Carnival. As I mentioned, Chaos Carnival is the Global Chaos Engineering Conference happening on the 27th and 28th. We decided not to have the Chaos Engineering meetups for a couple of months just to facilitate Chaos Carnival and move ahead with some amazing talks. So everyone from the iFood team, FIS team, and all the Litmus community members part of this call, I would urge you to register and share it with your team as well, so that you can just get a lot of insights, learnings on chaos engineering and be a part of the community. So thanks a lot, folks. The link is in chat, so you can just take a look. And with this, we come to the end of today's Litmus community call, and hope to see you soon again next Thursday, Wednesday of the month. So thanks everyone for joining in. Bye guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Bye.